now I've since interviewed hundreds of people that have done this. I'm doing a carnivore diet, which I know is extreme to a lot of people, but I feel like it's the strict elimination diet to get rid of everything. And the interesting thing in doing this documentary and interviewing hundreds of people, everyone has this thing like around 3 weeks where they're doing this strict elimination diet and they're like, my gut just feels so much better. It's like the gut bacteria, gut biome is like healing. And I hear it over and over again. And I thought before, well, yeah, of course, they're not eating the junk food, they're not doing this. But I started wondering more, is this because I think carnivore or this elimination diet is probably the least exposure you could get to glyphosate if you had to survive on Earth. It's kind of
Oh
it's
my
kind
God,
of
yeah.
sobering. Yeah. It's kind of sobering that we have such a broken system that we have to go to such an extreme. But I don't know
Oh
if
my
you have
God.
any. Yeah.
Well, and it's good you brought that up because, of course, the gut bacteria is we know how much is connected to everything in our bodies. And that was definitely my path to healing. And it's really wild when you learn what glyphosate does. And there are a lot of studies that actually came out of King's College in London by this Dr. Robin Menage. And he's a microbiologist, and he was dedicated to glyphosate for some time and was able to prove that glyphosate through dietary encounters and they actually kill the beneficial gut bacteria, but allow the pathogenic to proliferate. I mean, it's like the worst kind of antibiotic, right?
Right.
To kill the good stuff. And then it's highly connected to leaky gut syndrome and encouraging tight junctions to stay open and allow all the toxins to be dumped. And then you get the autoimmune cascade and all this stuff that it sounds like you also experienced. I mean, I can picture exactly what happened. And it totally makes sense. And what's interesting is I was working on a documentary some years ago, and it was on GMOs and glyphosate. And so I spent some time on this Iowa farm, and we did a harvest. It was a GMO farm, and we did a harvest, and then we brought it over to a CAFO, a confined animal feeding operation. And it was so shocking because the cows, I mean, it was so sad. Like, they had so much mucus coming out of their noses. They were so depressed. Like, it wasn't even like a live situation. It was horrible. So for a long time, I couldn't eat meat because I just was so horrified by what I saw. And then I was actually at a screening of Common Ground, and we had a party, and Gabe Brown, who's this amazing rancher who has a beautiful farm and is all about humane treatment of animals. And so he had his meat there. I was like, oh gosh, okay. I don't want to be rude, so I'm going to have it. Okay, I'm just going to say that I suddenly felt energetic again. I was feeling really good. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's right. This is how I used to feel when I ate this, particularly like the high quality stuff, and it's true. Glyphosate actually can bioaccumulate also in the cows. So when you're eating meat, it's really important not to have the factory farmed meats, because they're fed the grains that are sprayed with glyphosate. It actually bioaccumulates in the tissues, and it's pooped out. And so it's important to find the grass-fed, grass-finished stuff. But this is what's also crazy. So you might think with glyphosate that organic, if you're buying organically, it's not supposed to have glyphosate used. And so then when we run some testing, we find that, actually in some organic foods, you still find glyphosate, which is very disappointing because you think you're paying a premium to not have it. So then the question becomes, okay, where then is this glyphosate coming from? And what's happening is that because if you have an organic farm, you can't use synthetic fertilizers. So they're taking the manure as fertilizer from these animal farms, and those animals that produce that feces, they've been eating the glyphosate ridden corns and grains. And so they poop it out. It is transported over to the organic farm. It's put out on the soil. And now you have the same situation where, it's acting as a mineral chelator. It's leaving these residues in organic food. And so it's a hard thing that organic is going to need to steer clear of, because once these things start getting unveiled in different consumer products that glyphosate is actually present after you pay this premium, I mean, it's very disappointing to the food manufacturers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was reading somewhere recently too. They were saying, I don't know if it was the EPA or someone did some test, and it was 60% of organic kale still had glyphosate on it. So you're paying extra for it, and you're still, whether it's from overspray or manure, like you said, It's crazy, but the antibiotic thing really blew my mind because I was so sick for so long and on a lot of antibiotics over the years for different issues. I just always remember the doctor saying, like, the one little piece of good advice I had from doctors was staying off those antibiotics as much as you can because they can wreck your gut bacteria, gut biome. But then when you realize that glyphosate is an antibiotic and people are ingesting it, even if it's low levels of it, chronically, every single day for years and years and years now. What is that doing to our guts? And then you look around and it's like you said, the sperm counts, fertility rates, children with fatty liver disease right now is just crazy. I had a
Oh my
doctor
gosh,
on.
it's crazy.
It's
It's just
criminal.
skyrocketed.
Yeah. I had a doctor on. He's been practicing for 40 years now, a family medicine doctor. And he said, like, this should be all over the news. It's insane, the number of children walking around with fatty liver disease, and it's everywhere. It's very frustrating too, because some of these things, they sort of happen slowly, and then our brains, I don't know, normalize them. Well, that's just the way it's always been. That's just the way it's always been. But
Totally. The normalization of illness. And actually, this is something that really concerns me a lot because I'm old enough to remember it wasn't always like this. And I'm concerned that particularly with Gen Zers, that it's just the way it's always been. Like half of their friends have an illness, right? And so that's just the way it is. I guess you constantly go to the doctor. It just has become normalized. So it's scary. And I do think that is so true of any of these environmental toxins. It's so hard to trace. And so you don't even have that many epidemiological studies on it because it's over such a period of time and you're exposed to so many things. So how do you even really like decipher exactly what it is? So in my opinion, you take the common sense approach of, oh my God, we introduced this antibiotic to our food supply. It's used on everything. It's omnipresent. It's in our drinking water. It is everywhere all day long in the air we breathe. Maybe, just maybe, that has something to do with our crippled gut biome. I mean, it is so incredibly hampered. And you too, it is so true what you're saying about the antibiotics, because when I was first sick, I was put on all those antibiotics because I had just sinus issues. And so they're like, oh, you just need to keep going. I mean, I'm talking like 3 months of antibiotics. That is so horrible. And then with nothing on the other end to fix it. And you just know that the cascade of dysbiosis is going to be out of control.
yeah, yeah, I know there's a lot of. I've interviewed quite a few people on gut bacteria, gut biome, and the consensus, I think, is we know so little about it. It's like the ocean. We know very little bit about it, but what we do know is just even minor foods, medications, ingredients can affect the gut biome. So what do we think's happening when we're ingesting this glyphosate over and over again? It's no wonder that people are so sick,
Oh
so
my
many
God.
health issues right now. It's just completely out of control. It all seems to make sense. In terms of glyphosate, what does it do to the soil? Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. It's so interesting. And like, this is the part that I love most about what I do is now I'm spending more time on regenerative agriculture. Because it's just wild. We can't see our gut biome, but you can see healthy soil versus unhealthy soil. And it's the same thing. And so, you go and see a field that has been sprayed with tons of glyphosate and you see dead dirt underneath the crops. It's so wild. It's like when I took out a shovel at one point, I'm shoveling through it and I'm like, I did not see one worm. I saw a corpse of a worm and just no life, none of the organic matter that's supposed to be there or the biome or any fungi or anything. So it's the same thing that we have inside of us. It is interesting because glyphosate, as I'd mentioned in the beginning, is this mineral chelator, and it means it binds to minerals. So it does the same thing in soil. So it binds to really essential minerals that are in the soil that we need to have in our crops, and it makes them bio unavailable to the crops themselves. So where we used to have the magnesium, the manganese, the zinc that would naturally come from our food supply, it's just not available. It's not there. And so you can eat as much veggie as you want, but if it's not getting those really vital nutrients and all the phytonutrients that are really, really important that can only come from organic matter and the soil biome, then you're not getting real nutrition. And this is the case with most of the farming across this country, where we have mostly dead soil from the overuse of chemicals and a very, very dead biome in the soil. And I'm always thinking, as people, there's a huge rash of suicides in the kids. I mean, all of these mental health disorders, the antidepressant use is through the roof. And I'm always thinking, oh my gosh, if you could just supplement, like, first of all, let's fix the food system. But if you can supplement everyone with magnesium, zinc, and manganese, and just see whether behaviors normalize, I think you would see it, because I don't think anyone has it, because you can't in today's climate of farming, unless maybe it's imported from another country, in which case maybe. But we do not prioritize the soil in this country, and it's just super sad.
Yeah. I love how you kind of spoke about soil and the gut. It's kind of interesting when you do a little thought experiment there, the kind of the commonalities between the two. It's like we're destroying the soil of the earth with glyphosate, and at the same time, we're destroying our guts with glyphosate. And you see it, you see it in the fields and the earth, and then you see it in the human body too, with all the sickness that comes about from it. Doing this whole documentary, initially it was like, we're going to do a documentary about carnivore diet. And then it sort of evolved to proper human diet. And then it sort of evolved to a point where I realized that I think what's happening here is I'm getting healthier, and all these people are getting so healthy because we've returned to what is natural.
Quick interruption. Did you know we have an incredible membership site for you called healinghumanity.life? We have a special offer going on right now. Learn more at the link in the description. We have courses, we have expert Q&As with the good doctors. We even have a Healing Humanity Heroes Zoom call once a week, highlighting real heroes that will inspire you on a path to healing. The community is wonderful. We're going to be implementing a buddy system so you can be held accountable, recipes, all sorts of great stuff to help you on a path to healing. Learn more at the link in the description below.
And it seems like when we escape from what is natural, we get sick, we get disease.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's more unnatural than glyphosate everywhere.